The first tremor shook Liam's cabin just after midnight. A deep rumble that vibrated through the floorboards and rattled the windows like a freight train passing mere yards away. He sat up in bed, disoriented but instantly alert. Years of living alone in Wyoming's Wind River Range had honed his instincts. Outside, a strange glow pulsed against the night sky. Liam grabbed his rifle, more from habit than intent, and moved to the window. 20 acres of pine forest separated his ranch from the nearest neighbor, and he'd chosen this isolation deliberately after returning from Afghanistan. What he saw made his breath catch. A trail of blue-white fire arced across the sky, illuminating the mountains before disappearing behind the tree line. Seconds later, the ground shook again. "What the hell?" he muttered, already pulling on his boots. The rational part of him said to stay put. Call it in, maybe. But cell reception was spotty at best, and if it was a small plane going down, minutes could mean the difference between life and death. Decision made, Liam grabbed his emergency pack and headed out into the night. The October air bit through his jacket as he followed the fading glow. His flashlight beam cut through the darkness, sweeping across familiar trails now rendered strange and otherworldly in the unusual light. The smell hit him first, metallic and foreign, like ozone and something he couldn't identify. Then he saw it. It wasn't a plane. The object half buried in a forest clearing was like nothing he'd ever seen, sleek, almost organic in design, with a hull that seemed to shimmer between charcoal and midnight blue. Steam hissed from several ruptures along its side, and debris had carved a path of destruction through the pines. Liam approached cautiously, rifle ready but pointed downward. A section of the craft's side suddenly shifted with a hydraulic wheeze. Liam raised his rifle instinctively, muscles tensing. A figure emerged, stumbling from the opening and collapsing onto the forest floor. Even in the dim light, Liam could see this was no human pilot. The being was humanoid but undeniably alien, tall and slender with skin the color of deep azure, almost luminescent in the moonlight. Long, silver-white hair spilled across shoulders draped in some kind of damaged metallic fabric. When the figure struggled to rise and failed, Liam saw dark blue liquid seeping through the material, blood, he realized with a jolt. Against every rational instinct, Liam moved closer. The alien's head snapped up, and Liam found himself frozen in place by the intensity of those eyes, completely silver, with no visible iris or pupil, yet somehow expressing both fear and defiance. "Stay back," the figure rasped in perfect, if accented, English. Her voice, and it was definitely feminine, had an almost musical quality, like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "You're hurt," Liam said, lowering his rifle completely and raising his empty hand in what he hoped was a universal gesture of peace. She tried again to stand, only to collapse with a hiss of pain. "They're coming," she warned, her silver eyes scanning the sky. "You should run." "Who's coming?" Liam asked, but the alien's attention had already shifted to a small device on her wrist. She tapped it several times, her movements growing increasingly desperate. "Damaged," she muttered. "Tracker still active." Liam made a decision that would change his life forever. "My cabin's about a mile back. Can you walk if I help you?" The alien studied him, suspicion evident in her posture. "Why would you help me?" It was a fair question. Liam shrugged. "Because you need it." For several heartbeats, she didn't move. Then, with obvious reluctance, she nodded once. Liam approached slowly and offered his arm. Up close, her skin was even more remarkable, not a solid blue but subtly iridescent, like the surface of a soap bubble. She was also taller than he'd first thought, nearly matching his 6-foot frame. "What's your name?" he asked as he helped her to her feet, feeling her tense at his touch. "Nix," she replied after a pause. "Royal Sentinel Nix of the Cerulean Collective." She winced as she put weight on her left leg. "Former Royal Sentinel, I should say." "Liam," he offered simply. "Former Army, current recluse." A faint sound, like distant thunder, rumbled overhead. Nix's head snapped up, her entire body going rigid. They've already entered your atmosphere. Her voice was tight with urgency. If you're helping me, human, now is the time. They moved as quickly as Nyx's injuries would allow, which wasn't very fast. The rumbling grew louder. Whatever was coming, it was closing in fast. What exactly are you running from? Liam asked as they crested a small rise that would lead them back toward his cabin. Nyx's silver eyes met his. Executioners. The word hung between them, heavy with implication. Liam adjusted his grip, taking more of her weight. Well, he said with grim determination, let's not make their job easy. They reached the cabin just as lights appeared in the sky, 3 distinct craft, smaller than the crashed vessel but clearly of similar design. Liam practically carried Nyx the last 50 yards, her strength failing as the blood loss took its toll. Once inside, he barred the door and quickly shut off all lights. Under normal circumstances, Nyx said through gritted teeth as he lowered her onto his couch, this would constitute an interstellar incident. Harboring a fugitive of the collective is punishable by death on 17 systems. Good thing I'm not a citizen of those systems, Liam replied, already gathering first aid supplies. How bad are you hurt? Nyx pulled aside the torn fabric at her side, revealing a deep wound that pulsed with blue blood. The crash didn't do this, she said quietly. My cousin's blade did. Liam blinked. Your cousin tried to kill you. My cousin succeeded in overthrowing me, Nyx corrected. The killing part is just taking longer than he planned. Before Liam could respond, a blinding light swept across the cabin windows. They both froze as the beam passed slowly over the structure, illuminating dust motes through the cracks in the blinds. The mechanical hum of the searching craft vibrated through the walls. Nyx's silver eyes found his in the darkness. If they find me here, they'll kill you too, she whispered. Liam's jaw tightened. He'd seen enough conflict to last several lifetimes, had come to these mountains specifically to escape it. Yet here he was, harboring an alien fugitive from what sounded like an interstellar coup. It was madness. Let me worry about that, he said, turning his attention back to her wound. First, we need to stop this bleeding. As the searchlights continued their sweep and the distant craft circled overhead, Liam worked to clean and bandage Nyx's injury. His fingers moved carefully over her strange, cool skin, and he couldn't help but notice how she watched him, wary but also curious, as if humans were as exotic to her as she was to him. Why? She asked suddenly, her voice soft. Liam didn't pretend to misunderstand. He secured the bandage before meeting her gaze. Because whatever you're running from, whatever you did, everyone deserves a chance. Something flickered in those alien eyes, surprise, perhaps, or the faintest hint of hope. Outside, the mechanical hum began to recede as the ships moved on, continuing their search elsewhere. For now, at least, they were safe. Thank you, Nyx said, the word seemingly unfamiliar on her tongue. Liam nodded once, then rose to peek through the blinds at the retreating lights. He had a feeling this was just the beginning of a very complicated situation. Get some rest, he told her. Something tells me we're both going to need it. As Nyx settled back against the cushions, her silver eyes drifting closed, Liam couldn't shake the feeling that his life had just irrevocably changed course. He'd saved her, for tonight, at least. But as the alien ships disappeared over the horizon, he wondered if he'd just made the biggest mistake of his life or stumbled into something extraordinary. Either way, there was no going back now. Dawn arrived with muted gold light filtering through the cabin windows. Liam hadn't slept. Instead, he'd alternated between watching the sky for returning search vessels and checking on Nyx, whose fever had spiked sometime after midnight. Her azure skin had taken on a concerning pallor, almost lavender in tone, and her breathing had grown shallow. Liam pressed a cool cloth to her forehead. Nyx, he said quietly. I need to know what to do. Is there something in your ship that could help? Silver eyes fluttered open, unfocused at first. The medical kit, she murmured. Left compartment under the pilot's seat. Yellow case. Liam hesitated. Venturing back to the crash site was risky, the hunters might have posted guards, but watching Nix deteriorate was worse. Decision made, he checked his rifle and prepared to leave. "If I'm not back in 2 hours," he told her, "there's a trapdoor under the rug. Root cellar. Hide there." Nix caught his wrist, her touch unexpectedly cool against his skin. "The device on my wrist," she said, unfastening a slim metallic band. "It's a universal translator, but it also has emergency protocols." She pressed it into his palm. 3 taps activates a camouflage field. Brief, but effective. Their eyes met, an unspoken understanding passing between them. This level of trust from someone who had every reason to be suspicious felt significant, though Liam couldn't articulate why. "I'll be back," he promised. The forest was eerily quiet as Liam made his way toward the crash site, every sense heightened. Fall leaves crunched underfoot despite his careful tread, and the morning mist hung heavy between the pines. As he neared the clearing, he dropped to a crouch, scanning for movement. The ship looked different in daylight, less menacing, more tragic. Its elegant design was evident despite the damage, with flowing lines that reminded Liam of deep-sea creatures. No guards were visible, but that didn't mean they weren't there. Liam circled the perimeter once before approaching, Nix's wrist device secured to his own arm. The ship's entry point remained open, a jagged mouth in the vessel's side. He slipped inside, immediately struck by the interior's alien yet somehow familiar layout. It was a single-pilot craft, with controls that seemed designed to respond to touch rather than physical switches. True to her word, the yellow case was exactly where she described. Liam grabbed it, along with what appeared to be a small arsenal of weapons, sleek devices that fit comfortably in his palm despite their foreign design. If they were going to survive whatever was coming, they needed every advantage. A low, mechanical hum suddenly filled the air, growing louder by the second. Liam's pulse spiked. They were coming back. 3 taps on Nix's device. The air around him shimmered, and when he glanced at his hand, it appeared distorted, as if seen through rippling water. Not invisible, but enough to fool a casual glance. He pressed himself against the interior wall of the ship, barely breathing. 2 figures entered the clearing, humanoid but unmistakably alien, with scaled crimson skin and eyes that seemed to reflect light like a cat's. They moved with predatory grace, scanning the area with devices similar to the one Nix had given him. "The signal terminated here," one said, voice raspy and clicking with strange consonants that Liam could somehow understand, the translator at work, he realized. "The princess is injured." "She can't have gone far," the other replied. "The human settlements nearby are primitive. We start there." "Princess?" Liam thought, grip tightening on the medical kit. Nix had called herself a royal sentinel, not royalty. The hunters continued their methodical sweep of the area, coming dangerously close to where Liam stood frozen. The camouflage field flickered once, a warning that its power was fading. He'd have seconds, not minutes, to escape if they didn't leave soon. Finally, after what felt like hours, they returned to their craft, a sleek, predatory vessel that had landed just beyond the tree line. As they disappeared inside, Liam seized his chance, slipping out of Nix's ship and into the cover of the forest. He ran most of the way back, the yellow case clutched tightly to his chest, heart pounding with more than exertion. Princess. Royal Sentinel. Executioners. Whatever he'd stumbled into went far beyond a simple fugitive situation. When he burst through the cabin door, Nix was exactly where he'd left her, though she'd managed to prop herself up slightly. Relief flooded her features when she saw him. "You made it," she said, then noticed the weapons he'd brought along with the medical kit. A small smile curved her lips. "And you came prepared." "Your friends are still looking," Liam said, opening the case. Inside were several vials of iridescent liquid and what appeared to be an injector. "They called you Princess." Nix's expression hardened. "Did they? You want to tell me what's really going on?" Liam asked, handing her the injector. Because I'm starting to think I'm harboring more than just a fugitive. She administered the medicine to herself with practiced ease, then leaned back, exhaustion evident in every line of her body. For a moment, he thought she might deflect again, but then she sighed. Was Sentinel Prime to the royal house of Cyril, she began. My cousin, Orion, staged a coup 3 lunar cycles ago. Most of the royal family was executed immediately. Her voice grew tight. I escaped with the heir. The princess, Liam supplied. Nix met his gaze steadily. No. The queen. Me. The revelation hung in the air between them. Liam sat back, processing. The title wasn't supposed to be mine, she continued. I was born to serve, not rule. But my sister's assassination left no direct heirs. Her expression darkened. Orion couldn't risk leaving any legitimate claim to the throne alive. Not when his own bloodline is so diluted. So he sent assassins after you. Executioners, she corrected. There's a difference. Assassins work in shadow. Executioners want witnesses, they're a message to anyone who might oppose him. The medicine seemed to be working, color was returning to her skin, and her breathing had steadied. When she moved to sit up straighter, Liam instinctively reached to help her, his hand brushing against hers. The contact sent an unexpected jolt through him, not unpleasant, but startling in its intensity. Nix's eyes widened slightly, suggesting she'd felt it too. Your physiology, she said after a moment, withdrawing her hand, it's remarkably compatible with mine. That's uncommon. Liam wasn't sure how to respond to that, so he changed the subject. We need to move. Those hunters were headed toward town. It won't take them long to work their way back here. I can't ask you to uproot your life, Nix said, though there was something in her eyes, hope, perhaps, that contradicted her words. You're not asking, Liam replied simply. I'm offering. Their gazes locked, and something shifted between them, an acknowledgement that whatever was happening went beyond obligation or circumstance. There was a connection here, unexpected and unexplainable. Over the next few hours, they prepared to leave. The medicine had accelerated Nix's healing to a remarkable degree. By midday, she could move with only minimal pain. Liam packed only essentials, food, weapons, medical supplies, into his old military rucksack. His cabin had been a sanctuary for 5 years, but he found himself strangely unbothered by the prospect of leaving it behind. Where will we go? Nix asked as she tested one of the weapons she'd brought from her ship, its sleek design looking utterly foreign in the rustic cabin. I have a place, Liam said. An old hunting cabin deeper in the mountains. Off-grid, hard to find if you don't know where to look. Nix considered this, then nodded. It will buy us time, at least until I can contact my allies. She paused, looking uncertain for the first time since he'd met her. If any still live. The vulnerability in her voice touched something in Liam. On impulse, he reached out, his hand finding hers. This time, both were prepared for the strange electricity that passed between them, though neither pulled away. We'll figure it out, he said simply. They left as dusk approached, taking Liam's old pickup as far as the logging road would allow, then continuing on foot. The mountain air grew sharper as they climbed, autumn's chill already giving way to winter's bite at the higher elevation. Nix moved with unnatural grace despite her recent injury, adapting quickly to the rugged terrain. Your world is beautiful, she observed as they paused at a ridgeline overlooking the valley below. The setting sun painted the landscape in fiery oranges and deep purples that reminded Liam of her skin. Untamed in a way mine is not. And yours? Liam asked, curious despite the urgency of their journey. Cyril was, a marvel of both nature and technology, she said, a distant look entering her silver eyes. Cities that seem to grow from crystal formations, oceans that glow with bioluminescent life. Her expression softened. The royal spires reach so high they pierce the clouds. From the uppermost chambers, you can see the curve of the planet and both of our moons. The wistfulness in her voice made something ache in Liam's chest. You'll see it again, he said with more conviction than he had any right to feel. Nyx turned to him, studying his face as if searching for something. Perhaps, she said finally. If we survive what's coming. They continued their journey in comfortable silence, each lost in thought. As night fell, the temperature dropped dramatically, their breath fogging in the air. Nyx, Liam noticed, seemed less affected by the cold than he was, another alien trait to add to the growing list of differences between them. By the time they reached the hunting cabin, full darkness had descended. The structure was small, little more than a single room with a wood stove, a narrow cot, and basic amenities. But it was solid, hidden, and, most importantly, safe for now. Liam got a fire going while Nyx secured the perimeter with devices she'd brought from her ship, sensors that would alert them to any approach. When she returned, snowflakes dusted her silver hair, creating a constellation effect that momentarily took Liam's breath away. The atmospheric conditions are changing, she said, brushing the snow from her shoulders. It will provide additional cover, but it may also complicate our departure. You mean it's going to snow? Liam translated with a small smile. And probably a lot. A hint of amusement touched her features. Yes. It's going to snow. As they settled in for the night, the single cot presented an obvious dilemma. Liam prepared to offer her the bed while he took the floor, but Nyx surprised him. On Serral, she said quietly, isolation is considered one of the cruelest punishments. Our species evolved in communal groups, to be alone is to be diminished. She hesitated. What I'm trying to say is, we can share, Liam finished for her, understanding. I don't mind. The relief on her face was evident, though she tried to hide it. They arranged themselves on the narrow cot, back to back, a careful distance maintained between them despite the limited space. But as the night deepened and the wind howled outside, that distance gradually disappeared. In the dark, with the soft crackling of the fire and the steady rhythm of shared breath, Liam found himself hyper-aware of every point where their bodies touched. The strange electricity hummed between them, softer now but persistent. It should have felt alien, unsettling, even, but instead, it felt oddly right. Just before sleep claimed him, Liam felt Nyx's hand find his, her fingers intertwining with his own. No words were exchanged, none were needed. Outside, snow continued to fall, blanketing the world in white silence, hiding their tracks and, for now at least, keeping their hunters at bay. 3 days passed like a dream in the mountain cabin. Outside, snow continued to fall, transforming the landscape into an unbroken expanse of white. Inside, Liam and Nyx established a rhythm that felt both strange and oddly familiar, as if they'd known each other far longer than mere days. Liam woke first that morning, careful not to disturb Nyx as he slipped from the cot. In sleep, she looked almost vulnerable, her features softened, silver hair spilled across the pillow like liquid moonlight. The sight created a tightness in his chest that both unsettled and intrigued him. He busied himself with rebuilding the fire, stoking the embers and adding fresh logs. The cabin's single room filled with warm, golden light as flames licked at the seasoned wood. Behind him, he heard Nyx stir. The snow is still falling, she observed, voice soft with lingering sleep. She moved to stand beside him at the small window, wrapped in one of his flannel shirts that hung loose on her slender frame. Your world has unexpected beauty. Liam watched her profile as she gazed at the snow-covered pines. The morning light caught the subtle iridescence of her azure skin, highlighting facets he hadn't noticed before, tiny patterns like scattered stardust across her cheekbones and temples. How's your wound? He asked, resisting the urge to brush a strand of silver hair from her face. Nyx glanced down at her side. Nearly healed. Our biology is efficient that way. She turned to face him fully. I should check the perimeter sensors. Before she could move away, Liam caught her wrist gently. They haven't found us. Not yet. The contact sent that now familiar current between them, stronger than before. Nyx's silver eyes widened slightly, her lips parting in surprise. For a moment, they stood frozen, something unspoken passing between them. "What is this?" Liam finally asked, his voice low. "This, feeling when we touch." Nyx didn't pretend to misunderstand. She looked down at where his hand still encircled her wrist, her expression thoughtful. "Among my people, it's called the synovi, the resonance. It's rare, even between Ceruleans." Her gaze lifted to meet his. "Between species, it's unprecedented." "What does it mean?" "It means our energy patterns are harmonious," she said carefully. "Compatible in ways that defy explanation." A slight hesitation. "Some would call it destiny." Liam released her wrist, unsure how to respond. He'd never believed in destiny or fate, his military experience had taught him that life was mostly chaos and coincidence. But there was no denying the connection between them, something that transcended their obvious differences. "Is that why you trusted me?" he asked. Nyx moved to the wood stove, warming her hands over its heat. "I trusted you because I had no choice," she answered honestly. "I was injured, stranded on an unfamiliar world." She glanced back at him. "But I continue to trust you because of who you are, Liam. Not because of any resonance between us." The simple statement touched him more than he expected. Before he could respond, one of the perimeter sensors on the table emitted a soft pulse. Nyx was beside it instantly, her entire demeanor shifting from relaxed to alert. "Someone's approaching," she said, activating the device's holographic display. A three-dimensional map of the surrounding area appeared above the sensor, with a blinking red dot moving steadily toward their location. Single entity, non-Cerulean biosignature. Liam grabbed his rifle. "Human." "Yes," Nyx confirmed, already reaching for one of her own weapons. Moving deliberately. Not a lost hiker. They positioned themselves on either side of the cabin's single door, falling into a coordinated defensive stance without discussion. The ease of their partnership struck Liam even in this tense moment. They moved like soldiers who had trained together for years, anticipating each other's positions. Footsteps crunched in the snow outside, slow and measured. Then a knock, 3 sharp raps against the wooden door. "Liam," a familiar voice called. "It's Tessa." "Open up, man." Liam's shoulders relaxed marginally. Tessa Reeves was the local forest ranger, an old friend who occasionally checked the remote cabins during severe weather. He signaled to Nyx, who nodded but kept her weapon ready. He opened the door just enough to reveal his face. "Tess. Kind of a long hike in this weather." Tessa stood bundled in her Forest Service parka, snowshoes strapped to her boots. Her dark braid was dusted with snow, her expression a mixture of relief and annoyance. 3 days of radio silence after reports of strange lights near your property?" "Yeah, thought it might be worth checking." Her sharp eyes took in his defensive posture. "You gonna invite me in, or should I start worrying?" Liam hesitated, glancing back at Nyx, who had positioned herself out of sight. She gave him a small nod. "Yeah, come on in," he said, stepping back. "But I should warn you, I have company." Tessa's eyebrows shot up as she entered, stomping snow from her boots. When she saw Nyx, she froze, mouth falling open. "Oh," was all she managed. "Tessa, this is Nyx," Liam said, closing the door. "Nyx, Tessa." To her credit, Tessa recovered quickly. She removed her gloves slowly, eyes never leaving Nyx's distinctly alien features. "Well," she said finally, "you're definitely not from around here." Nyx inclined her head in acknowledgement, her posture regal despite the borrowed flannel shirt. "No. I am not." An awkward silence fell. Liam cleared his throat. "Tess is the local forest ranger. She's a friend. A friend who's had search and rescue teams combing the area for you," Tessa added, her initial shock giving way to professional concern. After the meteor, or whatever it was, and then you disappeared. She trailed off, gaze shifting between them. This is big, Liam. Really big. We know, Liam said quietly. That's why we're up here. Tessa sank onto the room's single chair, pulling off her hat and running a hand through her hair. There are men in town. Government types, they say, but... She shook her head. They're asking questions. Strange questions about atmospheric disturbances and unusual sightings. Nix's expression hardened. They're not from your government. I figured that much, Tessa replied dryly. Especially when they offered me a substantial reward for any information. She fixed Liam with a serious look. They described you, Liam. In detail. The implication hung in the air. Somehow, the hunters had obtained an image of him, perhaps from surveillance he hadn't detected. They said you're harboring a dangerous fugitive, Tessa continued. That you're interfering with an international security operation. And you came anyway, Liam observed. Tessa shrugged. 5 tours together buys you the benefit of the doubt. Her gaze shifted to Nix. But I'm gonna need more than that now. Over the next hour, they explained everything, the crash, the hunters, Nix's true identity, and the coup that had sent her across the stars. Tessa listened without interruption, her expression shifting from disbelief to grim understanding. So these executioners, she said when they finished, they're not going to stop coming. No, Nix confirmed. Not until I'm dead or I reclaim my throne. Tessa blew out a breath. Well, at least the options are clear. She stood, decision apparently made. I can buy you some time. Misdirect the search, maybe lead them north toward the Canadian border. That's too dangerous, Liam protested. So is harboring alien royalty, Tessa countered with a small smile. But here we are. She pulled her hat back on. Just, be careful, Liam. Whatever's happening between you two. Her eyes flicked meaningfully between them. It's written all over both your faces. After Tessa left, promising to return in 2 days with supplies and information, a heavy silence fell over the cabin. Nix moved to the window, watching the ranger's retreating form until she disappeared into the snow-laden forest. She's loyal to you, Nix observed. That's rare and valuable. We served together, Liam said simply, as if that explained everything. In many ways, it did. Night fell quickly in the mountains, especially in winter. As darkness enveloped the cabin, Liam and Nix shared a simple meal of canned stew heated over the wood stove. The domesticity of the scene struck Liam as absurd, sharing dinner with an alien queen in a one-room hunting cabin while executioners from another world searched for them. You're smiling, Nix noted, her head tilted slightly in curiosity. What amuses you? Liam shook his head. Just thinking about how bizarre this is. A week ago, my biggest concern was whether I had enough firewood for winter. And now? Nix prompted. Now I'm hiding in the mountains with a deposed alien queen, wondering if we'll survive the month. Despite his words, there was no regret in his tone. Nix studied him, her silver eyes reflecting the firelight. You could have stayed out of this. At any point, you could have turned me over or simply walked away. No, Liam said quietly. I couldn't have. Something shifted in Nix's expression, a softening, a vulnerability that she rarely allowed herself to show. She set aside her empty bowl and moved to sit beside him on the edge of the cot. There's something I haven't told you, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. About the resonance between us. Liam waited, suddenly aware of every inch of space where their bodies almost touched. Among my people, those who experience the Synovi can form a bond, she continued. A connection of minds and spirits that transcends physical limits. Her gaze dropped to her hands. It's sacred, intimate. Once formed, it can never be broken, not even by death. The weight of her words hung between them. And you think we could form this bond? Liam asked, his voice rough with emotion he couldn't quite name. I know we could, Nix replied. I can feel it building between us every time we touch, every time our eyes meet. She looked up, her expression open and vulnerable in a way he'd never seen before. But I won't force such a connection on you. It would be unfair. Unfair how? You don't understand what you'd be agreeing to, she said gently. The bond would change you, change us both. We would share thoughts, emotions, even memories. There would be no secrets between us. Liam considered this. The soldier in him recognized the tactical advantage of such a connection, instant communication, coordinated movements, shared awareness. But the man in him understood this was about something far more profound. Show me, he said finally. Nix's eyes widened slightly. Liam. Not the full bond, he clarified. Just, show me what it would be like. If you can. She hesitated, then slowly raised her hand to his face. Her cool fingers hovered just above his skin. Are you certain? In answer, Liam leaned forward, closing the distance between her fingers and his temple. The effect was immediate, a rush of sensation that wasn't quite touch or taste or sound, but somehow all of these and more. Colors he'd never seen before exploded behind his closed eyelids, and with them came emotions not his own, Nix's wonder at Earth's beauty, her grief for her lost home, her growing fascination with him. Images flashed through his mind, crystal spires reaching toward twin moons, oceans that glowed with bioluminescent life, ceremonies conducted in grand halls where thousands of azure-skinned beings gathered. He saw Nix as she had been, resplendent in ceremonial armor, her silver hair elaborately braided with glowing stones, her bearing every inch a queen's. And then, more intimately, he felt her fear when her cousin's forces attacked, her desperation as she fled, the moment she'd decided to trust a strange human who offered help when she needed it most. Finally, he felt what she felt now, a complex tangle of duty and desire, fear and hope, and beneath it all, a growing warmth when she looked at him that mirrored his own feelings exactly. When Nix withdrew her hand, Liam gasped, feeling as though he'd surfaced from deep water. The cabin seemed dimmer, ordinary reality flat and muted after what he'd experienced. That, Nix said softly, is merely the shadow of what a true bond would be. Liam struggled to find words, his heart racing. That was. I've never. I know, she replied, understanding his incoherence perfectly. Few humans would have survived even that glimpse. Your mind is, remarkably adaptable. Their eyes met, and in that moment, something fundamental shifted between them. Liam reached for her, one hand cupping her face, thumb tracing the stardust pattern along her cheekbone. Nix leaned into his touch, her silver eyes darkening with emotion. If we form this bond, he asked, would it help us survive what's coming? Yes, she answered honestly. But that shouldn't be your reason for accepting it. It's not, Liam said, and closed the distance between them. Their first kiss was like stepping into a lightning storm, electric, dangerous, exhilarating. The resonance between them amplified, sending waves of sensation cascading through his body. Nix's cool lips warmed beneath his, her hands gripping his shoulders as if to anchor herself against the intensity. When they finally pulled apart, breathless, Liam rested his forehead against hers. Around them, the cabin had grown dark except for the wood stove's golden glow. Outside, snow continued to fall, insulating them from the world beyond. This changes everything, Nix whispered, her voice uncharacteristically uncertain. Liam smiled, suddenly sure in a way he hadn't been about anything in years. Maybe everything needed changing. As night deepened around them, they spoke in hushed tones of worlds beyond Earth, of cultures and traditions and possibilities neither had considered before their paths crossed. They spoke of the bond, of its implications and responsibilities, of the uncertainty that still lay ahead. And when words failed, they communicated in other ways, touches, glances, the silent understanding that was already growing between them even without the formal bond. Later, as they lay together on the narrow cot, Nix's head resting on his chest, Liam stroked her silver hair and contemplated the strange twist of fate that had brought an alien queen crashing into his solitary life. "Tomorrow," Nyx murmured, already half asleep, "I'll show you how to use my weapons. The executioners won't wait forever." "Tomorrow," Liam agreed, pressing a kiss to the top of her head. As sleep claimed him, Liam's last thought was that he'd do whatever it took to protect her, this extraordinary being who had fallen from the stars into his arms. Whether it was love or destiny or simple human stubbornness, he couldn't say. Perhaps it didn't matter. What mattered was that for the first time since returning from war, he had someone, worth fighting for. Outside, the storm finally began to ease, stars appearing one by one in the clearing sky. Among them, invisible to the human eye, a larger ship entered Earth's atmosphere, its intentions unknown but its arrival heralding the end of their brief sanctuary.